Hi everyone! Today we're going to start chapter 34, which includes the vertebrates, our closest relatives. So this is exciting to most people because we're finally going to get to see animals we're more familiar with. Now, I wonder if you can identify what is in this picture, what you see in this picture. Hopefully you're thinking snake skeleton, because that's exactly what it is. Now you might wonder why I put a snake skeleton on this PowerPoint slide. Well, I have found that not all my students realize that snakes have bones. And I don't know if you were one of those students or not, but if you were, now you know. Snakes do indeed have bones. In fact, it shouldn't be a huge surprise because when we talked about evolution, we talked about how some snakes had vestigial femurs, which are thigh bones, and of course you wouldn't have thigh bones if you didn't have bones in general. All right, now here's the bad news, or sad news for some of you. Not all chordates are vertebrates. So we're not getting into lions and tigers and bears, oh my, right away. We're going to have to go over some organisms that probably are still pretty unfamiliar with you. But first what we will do is start off by going over the 4 key characteristics that all chordates shared. So if you are in phylum Chordata, which by the way you are, you must have these 4 key characteristics. Oh, but I should, little caveat here, that they're not always very obvious or even present in the adult form of the animal, but they are always present in the embryo or larval form. So you had all these things, even if you don't have them anymore. So once again, the 4 key chordate characteristics. Number 1, all chordates have a notochord, and you can see a description right there. It's a dorsal supporting rod between the digestive tract and the nerve cord. Now when you hear notochord, I want you to think mesoderm. And another thing I want you to think is stiff, because what the notochord is, it is a stiff rod, and it is used for support, especially in those chordates that don't have an actual vertebral column evolved yet. So again, notochord, think stiff, and think derived from mesoderm. All chordates have a dorsal hollow nerve cord. Now, something should go off in your brain. This is different from the animals we've been looking at. Do you remember looking at a worm? Extending from its brain was a nerve cord. Do you remember? Was it on the dorsal side, or did the nerve cord extend on the ventral side? Hopefully you're thinking ventral side. In the animals we've looked at so far, I think I showed you a diagram of an earthworm and a grasshopper. The nerve cord runs along the ventral side of the animal, and it is solid, not hollow. Next characteristic, pharyngeal slits. Gee, what the heck is your pharynx? Your pharynx is, well, if you have your mouth and you keep going back, you enter the pharynx, just right there. You could say the back of your throat, top of your throat. This might help you out a little bit. Do you remember when we talked about planaria, those flatworms? Very cute, adorable flatworms. Now, hopefully you know by now, I am a terrible artist. I didn't even mean to hold it down at that point. So this is going to be my very, very poor drawing of a flatworm. Oh gosh, this is even worse than when I practiced. And these adorable little flatworms, they had these big old eye spots. Do you remember that? This is really bad. These were the ones that ran through mazes. We talked about the memory experiments with flatworms and how they regenerate. This is a really bad drawing. At any rate, do you remember where the mouth of the flatworm was? The mouth was not in the head region. Remember when hopefully you looked at the videos, when the planaria wanted to feed, it extended this tube and the mouth was at the end of the tube. So the opening was the mouth and this tube was the pharynx. So the moral of the story is this. The pharynx is always just posterior to an animal's mouth. And what is characteristic again of the phylum Chordata are these slits in the pharynx. Now most vertebrates still are aquatic animals. So for most animals, most chordates, these pharyngeal slits turn into gill slits. Not with ourselves, however. And finally, all chordates have a post-anal tail. So once again, this is different from what we've seen before. When we looked at a worm, all right, there's a mouth at one end and the digestive tract went all the way through the worm and the anus of the worm was at the very tip of the tail. But that is not true with chordates. Your dog, for instance, does not, poop does not come out of your dog's tail, all right? You know where your dog's anus is, and then there's a tail extending it. All right, now with that graphic thought, we'll ask the question, you are a chordate, so where's your notochord? If you don't know, I will show you in a minute. But before I do that, I want to bring up the idea of segmentation. This is also a characteristic of phylum Chordata, but the reason I didn't list it before because it's not unique to the clade chordates. So, if you've been reviewing, you should be able to list 2 phyla that we have talked about recently, 2 other phyla that are characterized by segmentation. Do you want to take a minute and think about that? Well, after you've thought the answer, please submit it on the form linked to our Isidore site. All right, now humans, we are chordates, so we do have segmentation. It's not super obvious, but if you know where to look, well, there you go. I think most of you know that we have a vertebral column, and here the segmentation is very obvious. And by the way, here's the answer to the other question. The disc in between our vertebrae, this is all that's left of our notochord when we're an adult. Again, once you have a vertebral column, you don't really need that stiff notochord for support. So, to review, our spinal column is an example of segmentation in our own body. And again, if you know where to look, you can find other examples of segmentation in humans. So, next time you're at the gym, you might want to do a little scientific research with your friend and say, let's look at evidence that humans are indeed in phylum Chordata. Just a thought. All right. Now, before we get into lions and tigers and bears, oh my, we have to realize that phylum Chordata contain 2 groups of animals that not only do lack a vertebral column, they don't even have heads. So believe it or not, these animals, because they are in phylum Chordata, are actually close relatives of ourselves. So here is the little road map that I hope you've printed out. Again, to remind you, deuterostomes is a clade, and the 2 sister taxa of deuterostomes is phylum Echinodermata and the phylum Chordata, which we are exploring today. Now, if you want to, you can look in your book or look online and break down phylum Echinodermata into all different classes, and you can see what class has the brittle stars and what class has the sea urchins and the sea stars, but we're not going to do that. Instead, we are going to look at our own phylum Chordata in most detail. So once again, the notochord is a distinguishing characteristic, so all members of the clade Chordata have a notochord. And what we're going to start with are these 2 basal animals, meaning they're at the base of this tree of animals. And these animals that are in our phylum Chordata but don't have a head and don't have a spinal column, they are called the tunicates and the lanceolets. So let's take a look. There they are. These are relatives of you that have no backbone. Tunicates are actually called sea squirts, and they're pretty cute if you see them out in the wild. And, well, actually, I think the lanceolets are pretty cute too. But I will have to admit, even though tunicates or sea squirts are cute, they are just really, really bizarre animals. So let's take a closer look at their lifestyle. Wrong way. Here we go. All right, this gives you an idea of scale. So if you go out into the ocean, you might find these tunicates, these sea squirts, and you might look at them and say, hey, I picked up a handful of sponges. Well, as we know, sponges are animals that lack true tissues. They don't have organs, and what you're about to see is that these sea squirts are actually fairly complex inside, and they do have organs. So here's a picture of tunicates. Here's another picture. Now this is the larval form of the tunicate, and this is not to scale. So if we drew it on here, it would be, about this big. So let me go over the very bizarre life cycle of the sea squirt. So when the sea squirt or the tunicate is in the larva form, it has easily the identical characteristics of phylum Chordata. Hollow dorsal nerve cord, notochord, postanal tail, pharynx with slits. Okay, this is the weird thing. It's only in the larval form often for just a few moments. Just a few moments. They don't feed. They just have cells that sense where would be an appropriate substrate. Once the larvae sense an appropriate substrate, their anterior end attaches, becomes permanently affixed to the substrate. Then their nervous system degenerates, disappears, their notochord disappears, their internal organs are rearranged to make this. Is that not the weirdest thing? So this is the larval form of a sea squirt. This is the adult form. It's a degenerate form, and it's the adult version. So let's take a closer look. So again, when you examine it from the inside, you see that there's a sea squirt actually has organs, so it's more complicated than a sponge, which has no organs. It is a filter feeder, so water comes in and it gets stuck, the little food particles get stuck in the pharynx. It's probably easier to see in the diagram. So water comes in, it's a filter feeder, little particles of food get filtered out by the pharynx. It has a stomach, so if food needs to be further digested, it can be digested. It has an intestine, again, way more complex than a sponge, and it has an anus. Now water is coming through this way, and what happens, it squirts out the water. That's why it's called a sea squirt. So the water brings oxygen to all the cells in the body, it delivers food, and then it picks up the debris at the end, squirts it out. There you go. You are relative in Phylum Chordata. Again, that is just really bizarre animal in my mind. And then our other headless, spineless relative is a lancelet. It's easy to remember because lance, it looks like a lance. Once again, it does have a larval form, but the adult immediately burrows into the substrate, so only this much of the animal is sticking out of the ocean floor. And these tentacles, again, trap little food particles. It is a filter feeder. So to review, lancelets, they are named for their blade-like shape. And like tunicates, they are filter feeders or suspension feeders. Here you get an example of scale. And they pretty much have to take whatever food the ocean brings to them. Now, here's a thought question for you. Do filter feeders need to move, hunt, and sense? Well, certainly not as an adult, because it doesn't matter if they sense there's no food. They can't move. They can't move toward food. So why? It doesn't matter if they don't sense it. They have to take what comes. All right, before we go on, I encourage you to watch a BioBit, and you can see the real live preserved specimens I have at UD and get a sense of their scale.